Hey guys, what's up? It's me. Good morning to you all. And today let's have a look at former President Jacob Zuma back home in Nkandla after being given remission by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's just quickly have a look.
Former President Jacob Zuma returned to prison during the early hours of Friday morning, only to be released in less than 2 hours.
A decision was taken that former President Zuma should come into the Escort Correctional Facility. He did arrive at 6 o'clock. He was admitted into the system. Upon admission into the system, he was subjected to administrative process, including the remission process that is already approved for all other offenders that qualify to be administratively processed under the remission process.
Correctional Services made the decision on former president's incarceration following the Constitutional Court's dismissal of the department's bid to appeal the SCA judgment, which found Zuma's release on medical parole to be unlawful. Zuma was released on remission as part of a program which will benefit over 9,000 non-violent offenders, as approved by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Justice Minister says the program was taken in accordance with the law.
We have on a parallel program have a challenge of overcrowding in the facilities, which we have to attend to as a matter of urgency because of what I've said has been accelerated by the loss of bed space. As we speak now, it's an active situation at Kutama Sentumu. So that is what we are dealing with at this current juncture. Whether the decision will withstand legal scrutiny, yes, we believe it will.
The Democratic Alliance was one of the interested parties who made representations that Zuma should spend some time in prison. The party's Glynis Breitenbach says this is a manipulation of the criminal justice system.
Okay, folks, let's quickly have a look in the Constitution. Okay, here we are. Chapter 5 of the Constitution. The President and National Executive. The President, paragraph 84, powers and functions of President. The President has powers entrusted by the Constitution and legislation, including those necessary to perform the functions of head of state and head of national executive. The President is responsible for, amongst other things, let's look at J, pardoning or reprieving offenders and remitting any fines, penalties, or forfeitures. Okay, so it's pretty clear here that what the African National Congress has done this time around was to follow the law. Well, they followed the law, we've got to give them credit. Now, I understand that there are different positions when it comes to people's feelings about this matter, but I would appeal that we do not vacillate from one point to the other when it comes to our Constitution, because our Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and it says law or conduct contrary to it shall be null and void, to the extent, of course, of its inconsistency. So if political parties like the DA are now arising saying that this was manipulation of the law, they simply need to take that to court and prove that there. If they can't prove that, then this matter should be let go and simply pursue President Zuma on the other outstanding charges. I do not agree necessarily that the ruling party should have made this decision for the purposes of electioneering, but I don't think they've made this decision for the purpose of electioneering. It may be part of that indeed. However, I have no way of reading their minds, but I can speculate. It may be part of that, but I think most importantly, we must applaud the decision made by Cyril Ramaphosa in the face of what happened when Zuma was sent to jail the other time. Now, some people may say, yeah, well, we can't tolerate lawlessness, we need to use force. You're dealing with human beings here and human lives. We saw how that when force was used in Marikana, when people were carrying nopkiris and asechais and all manner of traditional weapons, and they were warned by the police and they wouldn't pay attention to it, more than 30 people ended up being slaughtered that day, and they died a shameful death. So it's very important for the decision that the president has made. We always criticize Cyril Ramaphosa of not showing leadership. Let us admit that in this regard, he has shown leadership. Why? Next year is elections, and this Zuma crew has already made a threat that if President Zuma is sent to jail, they will not lie in wait and let that go. They will make this country ungovernable. So effectively, what am I saying? Bearing that in mind, Cyril Ramaphosa wants us to have a democratic elections next year. He doesn't want this what we call violence at our disposal. So it was a matter of saying, okay, let's look at what is the best for the country. Now, some people, as I've already said, could indicate now that when we're dealing with crime, people who practice crime, we should just simply deal with them swiftly. Sure, but our history and past is quite different in the sense that South Africa is a country that still bans tires and puts them on the road when they were doing for something that had nothing to do with the tires or the road upon which these tires are being placed. And they would put gigantic rocks, as we saw in Cape Town, and so on and so forth. So we need to be pragmatic in our approach as we look into this decision and not be emotional about it. The president did have this prerogative. He has exercised it. Let's move on from there. Both parties, the ones who are celebrating that Zuma has been released and the ones who are throwing all the toys out of the cart because Zuma has been released. Let's respect the fact that that's a prerogative of the president. He has exercised it. Let's move on from there. Okay, that's my rant concerning that one, guys. What do you think? Do you think that President Zuma should have been released? Do you think that this creates an inequality before the law type of a situation? Consider that he's 80 years old, and as one of our former public protectors, Tulima Donsela, said recently, that I think it was yesterday, that we have nothing as a country to gain from sending Zuma to jail. Once again, that's subject to debate, it's subject to an argument, and I'm not going to make that argument here. I'm simply saying, you give me your opinion down below. Do you believe that justice has been circumvented in this case, or the president did well by this what we call intervention? Okay, I'm out now. Before that, don't be so quick to run away from this video without clicking. Click like and click subscribe. Have a lovely one.